The alien reinforcements were arriving. Commander Vrall stood at the edge of the broken valley, looking out over the landscape. His army had regrouped, but they were not the same. They had lost too many soldiers, too many weapons. The once proud invaders had been broken, shattered by a single human. But Vrall refused to believe that they had been beaten. Not yet. "We will make our stand here," he said, his voice full of defiance. "The human is close. He will not survive another attack." He ordered his soldiers to fortify the valley. Large barriers were set up, weapons were loaded, and energy shields were raised. The aliens' new battle walkers stood in position, ready for the final assault. This time, they would destroy Reed. But Captain Reed was already inside the valley. Hidden among the rocks and ruins, he watched the alien army prepare for battle. His body was exhausted. His wounds were still painful, but his mind was sharp. He had no choice but to fight. The alien army had to be stopped, and if he died, he would die fighting. Reed had studied the valley's layout. He knew where the aliens were weakest. He knew the perfect spots for his traps. He was ready. At dawn, the battle began. The alien walkers stomped across the valley, their massive legs shaking the ground. Soldiers moved forward, their weapons aimed at the empty space around them. And then, the first explosion rocked the valley. A blast of fire and smoke shot up from behind a rock formation. The alien walkers swerved, firing wildly at the dust and debris. But it was all a distraction. Reed had already moved. Using the chaos, he planted bombs at key locations, set hidden traps, and picked off the aliens one by one. The aliens scrambled, but they couldn't find him. Their sensors failed. Their comms were jammed. Reed had stolen their technology and turned it against them. He was everywhere and nowhere at once. The battle walkers began to fall. One by one, Reed disabled their legs with well-placed explosives. The giant machines crashed to the ground, helpless. Vrall ordered his soldiers to take cover, but it was too late. The ground shook again, and the valley was filled with the sound of explosions. Soldiers screamed, running in every direction, but they couldn't escape. Reed was closing in. Amidst the chaos, Commander Vrall looked around. His soldiers were retreating. The valley was falling apart, and Reed was still out there, picking them off. "Hold your ground," Vrall shouted. "We will not lose to one human. We will not let this happen." But his words were empty. His army was crumbling, and Reed wasn't done yet. Reed moved silently through the valley, his cloak blending with the shadows. He reached the central control tower, the heart of the alien operations in the valley. Inside, Vrall's last line of defense waited, surrounded by energy shields and heavy weapons. But Reed had something they didn't: the element of surprise. In a swift move, Reed activated his stolen alien shield generator. He burst through the shield barriers and onto the control tower floor, his weapon aimed at the alien commanders. "Game over," Reed muttered, his voice cold and calm. The aliens opened fire, but Reed was too fast. He dodged and weaved between the blinding laser beams, using their own weapons against them. One by one, their leaders fell. Commander Vrall, watching from a distant cliff, realized it was over. His army was falling apart. Reed had become a legend, a nightmare. The human had turned their own technology, their own strength, into his weapon. And now, there was no way out. In the heart of the valley, Reed stood alone. Alien soldiers lay unconscious or dead around him. The last of their machines had been destroyed, but Vrall was still alive. Reed knew the fight wasn't over yet. There was one more battle to win. Vrall made his final move. He activated the alien warship's weapon system. A giant beam of energy fired down, aiming straight at Reed. But Reed was ready. He had anticipated this. He ducked behind a rock as the beam struck. The ground shook, and debris flew into the air. The warship fired again, but Reed had already moved. He fired his stolen rifle, hitting the warship's weapon control. The beam stopped. For a moment, everything was still. Then, a massive explosion rocked the sky. The alien warship had been destroyed. The valley was silent. No sound, no movement. Reed stood alone in the center of the battlefield, breathing heavily, his clothes torn, his body covered in wounds. But he was still standing. The alien forces were defeated, and the last enemy commander, Vral, lay broken, defeated by the one human who would not stop fighting. As the sun set over the valley, Reed looked out over the wreckage of the alien army. The battle was over. The jungle had won. He had won. "They thought we were weak," Reed whispered. "But we proved them wrong." The jungle had changed. It was no longer a place of safety for the aliens. It had become a hunting ground, and they were the prey. Commander Vral stood in the middle of the ruined camp. Smoke curled around him. His soldiers whispered and glanced into the trees, afraid to look too long. Vral growled, "It's just one human." But even he did not fully believe it anymore. Something was wrong. Something was different. This was not normal battle. This was terror. The next patrol left at sunrise. 10 soldiers, armed with heavy weapons, moved carefully through the forest. Their armor gleamed under the weak light. Their faces were tight with fear. They walked in silence, scanning everything, every leaf, every rock. At first, nothing happened. Then their radios crackled. Static filled the air. A voice whispered through the noise. "Still here." The soldiers froze. Before they could react, a trap snapped. A giant net made of metal wires pulled 3 soldiers into the air, hanging them upside down. They screamed and thrashed. Laser fire erupted. The others fired wildly into the trees, but they hit nothing. The jungle swallowed their bullets like it swallowed their courage. High above them, hidden in the thick branches, Captain Reed watched silently. His body was weak. His wounds burned, but his mind was sharper than ever. He knew how to make them afraid. He had become a shadow, a ghost. Reed moved without sound, slipping from tree to tree, always staying above. He studied their movements. He waited for mistakes. And the aliens made many. Fear made them sloppy. Fear made them blind. Hours later, 2 soldiers sat together under a large tree, trying to rest. One leaned back and sighed, removing his helmet for a moment. That was his last mistake. From the darkness, something sharp flew. A broken knife Reed had shaped from alien metal. It struck the soldier in the neck. The other soldiers screamed and fired into the shadows, but there was nothing there. Only silence, and the feeling that something was watching. Commander Vral smashed his fist against a tree. "Enough," he shouted. "Burn it all. Flush him out." Flamethrowers roared to life. Huge sheets of fire raced across the jungle. Trees exploded into flames. Animals fled in terror. The aliens smiled grimly. "Now," Vral said, "he has nowhere to hide." But he was wrong. Reed had already moved deep into the old caves under the jungle floor, caves he had found while setting his traps. He watched the fires from a safe distance, his mind already planning his next move. The aliens were burning the jungle, but they were also trapping themselves. That night, the rain came. A heavy storm fell from the sky, drowning the fires. Smoke turned to steam. The jungle hissed like a living thing. In the thick mist, the aliens' vision failed. Their sensors glitched. Their maps became useless. And then the real horror began. One by one, soldiers disappeared into the fog. No screams, no signs, just gone. It was like the jungle itself had swallowed them. Commander Vral ordered everyone to pull back to the main camp. He set up a shield wall, tall metal barriers with auto turrets on top. "No one goes out," he ordered. "No one comes in." They would wait for reinforcements. They would survive until help arrived. At least that was the plan. But Reed had other ideas. In the dead of night, The camp's lights flickered. The auto turrets spun wildly, firing at shadows that weren't there. Something had cut the power cables. In the darkness, the aliens huddled together, weapons shaking. Suddenly, a body fell from the sky, one of their own, tied and dropped into the center of camp. Pinned to his chest was a message: "You can't hide." Panic broke out. Soldiers ran in all directions. Some fired into the mist. Others simply fled into the jungle. Commander Vrol roared, trying to bring order. But it was too late. The ghost was inside. Captain Reed moved through the camp like a shadow. He planted explosives on fuel tanks. He smashed communication relays. He left trails of false footprints leading away from his real path. Every few minutes, something exploded. Every few minutes, more aliens screamed. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a nightmare. By dawn, the alien camp was broken. Only a few soldiers remained, tired, terrified, and scattered. Commander Vrol knelt by a ruined turret, breathing heavily. His army was gone. His pride was shattered. And somewhere out there, hidden among the trees and mist, the last human waited. Still bleeding, still fighting, still alive. Because humans don't give up. Humans don't surrender. And the worst mistake the aliens made was thinking one human alone could be defeated. The war was over. The alien invasion had failed. The once powerful army of invaders, defeated by a single human, lay in ruins. The alien flagship had fallen from the sky, its wreckage sinking into the ocean. Their last weapon, a deadly beam that could have wiped out Earth, had been stopped. And Reed, Captain Reed, the man who had fought alone to save the planet, now stood at the edge of the valley, watching as the sun slowly rose above the horizon, the dawn of a new day. Reed's body was broken. His wounds still throbbed, and every movement felt heavy. But in his heart, there was peace. The humans had won. The Earth had been forever changed. News of the victory spread across every continent. Governments, leaders, and civilians alike stood in awe of what humanity had achieved. They had fought the impossible and triumphed. People who had once feared the stars now looked up with pride. They had stared death in the face and turned it away. And Captain Reed had led them to victory. The world began to rebuild. The damage from the alien invasion was vast, but the spirit of humanity was stronger than any alien force. The survivors worked together, rebuilding cities, repairing infrastructure, and cleaning up the mess left behind by the invaders. But more than just rebuilding buildings, they rebuilt something even more important: hope. Reed had become a hero, the symbol of human strength. His story was told across the globe, in schools, on news broadcasts, and in books. People didn't just see him as a soldier, they saw him as something greater, a symbol of humanity's ability to overcome. He wasn't alone anymore. Months passed. The scars of war began to fade, but the memory of the battle stayed alive in every person's mind. The alien technology they had captured was studied, learned from, and adapted to help humanity grow stronger. The Earth had gained knowledge from the invaders, and now humanity was using it to become a powerful force in the galaxy. The Earth was no longer a small, weak planet. It was a planet that had stood up to an entire alien empire and won. Captain Reed, however, did not stay to bask in his glory. He had no need for fame. The war had been his fight, and now that it was over, he wanted peace. He returned to the jungle, where it all started, the place where the final battle had been fought. He didn't know what the future would bring. He didn't know if there would be more challenges ahead, but he was ready. After everything he had been through, he knew that humanity had the strength to face anything. Reed sat quietly by a river, watching the water flow past. The jungle, once scared by the destruction of war, had begun to heal. Birds sang in the trees. The air was fresh. The world was starting to feel like itself again. For the first time in a long while, Reed allowed himself to rest. Back in the cities, the Earth governments began to make plans for the future. There was talk of space exploration, of reaching out to other planets. The galaxy had once been a place of fear, but now, Earth was no longer a helpless planet. Humanity had proved its strength, and now, it was ready to take its place among the stars. But there was something else, something that the alien invaders had failed to understand. Humans were not just fighters. They were survivors, builders, dreamers. They were creators, artists, thinkers. They didn't just conquer. They created. The future was not just about war. It was about growth, exploration, and learning from the past. And now, humanity would do all of that with the knowledge that they had the strength to protect themselves, no matter what came next. The sun rose higher in the sky, its light brighter and warmer than it had ever been before. The war was over. Earth was safe, and a new chapter for humanity had begun. We are not weak, Reed thought, his gaze fixed on the horizon. We are more than they ever imagined. With that, he stood up and walked away from the valley, leaving the past behind. His story would live on forever, but the future was still waiting. The future of Earth, the future of humanity. And it would be bright. The sun had set, casting long shadows over the broken valley. The battle was over. The alien invasion was done. Captain Reed stood in the center of the valley, breathing heavily. His body ached, every wound burned, but his eyes were sharp, filled with a cold determination. Around him, the alien army lay defeated. There were no more walkers, no more weapons, no more soldiers. But there was still one final battle, one final reckoning. Far above in the alien flagship, the leaders were furious. The destruction of the warship, the collapse of their invasion force, it was too much. The message had been clear. Humanity was not weak. But they refused to accept it. We have underestimated them, one leader said, his voice full of fury. One human brought us to our knees. And yet, we still have the power to end this. Another leader nodded. We must destroy Earth. Leave nothing behind. This human victory ends here. The decision was made. Back in the valley, Reed knew what was coming. He had sensed it. The final blow from the alien command. The flagship, still hovering above, began charging up its most powerful weapon, a beam capable of wiping out everything below. It would take everything with it. The jungle, the valley, and Earth itself. Reed had no time to waste. He had to act fast. He climbed to a high point, his breath coming in short gasps. The valley was silent. The alien machines, their broken remains scattered on the ground, were reminders of how far the aliens had fallen. Reed didn't care about glory or pride. He only cared about one thing: saving Earth. Reed used what was left of the stolen alien technology to communicate with the last of the resistance forces. A message was sent, a warning to Earth's remaining survivors. We have one chance to stop them, Reed said, his voice hoarse but firm. Get to the launch stations. Fire the final counterattack. But would the Earth forces be ready in time? He had no idea. Time was running out. In the alien flagship, the countdown began. The leader's voice came over the ship's loudspeakers. Prepare to fire the main weapon. Target: Earth. No survivors. The beam's energy crackled and hummed, ready to destroy everything. Reed had one final trick up his sleeve. He had sabotaged the aliens' communication systems earlier in the battle. Now he would use their own power against them. Deep within the jungle, Reed activated the last stolen power core, the one he had hidden in plain sight. It was a gamble, but if it worked, it would send a shockwave straight into the flagship's control system. The massive explosion was a heartbeat away. Back in the valley, the ground rumbled. The alien flagship paused. For just a second, everything stopped. And then, boom! The power core exploded, sending a burst of energy racing through the air. The flagship's weapons went dark. Its systems flickered. The countdown halted. The alien leaders inside the flagship screamed in panic as their systems failed. They had no control, no way to stop the cascade of damage spreading through their ship. The countdown clock flashed EROR, and for the first time, the alien leaders understood. They had lost. The final blow had been struck. Reed had done it. He had stopped the alien weapon, and Earth was safe. But the fight wasn't over yet. As the flagship began to fall from the sky, burning and tumbling, Reed made his way back into the jungle. He knew the aliens had one last weapon, hidden deep in their broken ship, an emergency escape pod. If that pod launched, they could regroup and rebuild. They couldn't let that happen. Reed raced against time. With his strength fading, Reed reached the wrecked flagship. He fought his way through debris and alien soldiers. They were still alive, but weak, confused, and no longer organized. Reed found the escape pod, its hatch half open. With a final push of energy, Reed destroyed the pod's thrusters. He made sure the escape plan was sealed. The flagship burned into the atmosphere, falling like a star gone cold. It crashed into the ocean below, sinking without a trace. The battle had ended. The alien invaders were finally gone. Back in the valley, Reed stood alone, watching the sky. It was peaceful now. The only sounds were the soft rustle of trees and the distant call of animals. For the first time, Reed allowed himself to feel something other than battle. Relief. Earth had won. And the story of how humanity had fought, survived, and defeated the impossible would never be forgotten. As Reed turned to leave the valley, he looked back at the wreckage. His wounds were deep, his strength was gone, but his spirit, his will to fight, had never been stronger. He was not the last human. He was the first to show the galaxy what humans were capable of. They thought we were weak. They were wrong. The jungle was not quiet anymore. Every leaf, every shadow, every sound made the alien soldiers jump. Their glowing weapons shook in their hands. They moved in groups now, never alone, always looking over their shoulders. But Captain Reed was watching too. From high in the trees, hidden by branches and leaves, he waited. His broken arm was tied to his chest with a strip of cloth. His body ached, but his eyes were sharp and his mind was clear. He had learned one thing from Earth's wars. Fear is the best weapon. At sunset, a squad of aliens marched through the jungle, scanning for life signs. They wore heavy armor. Their boots crushed small plants underfoot. The leader barked orders. Find the human. Bring me his head. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed through the trees. The ground gave way. 3 aliens fell into a deep pit lined with sharp metal spikes, pieces Reed had torn from the crashed ship. Their screams filled the air for a moment. Then silence. The rest of the squad froze. Then the jungle exploded around them. Hidden traps whipped out, ropes, swinging logs, spikes flying from the trees. Aliens shouted and fired blindly into the shadows. But there was nothing to shoot at. Reed was already gone. Commander Vrall stood at the alien camp, listening to the reports. 5 missing, said one officer, his voice shaking. No sign of the human. Then find him. Vrall roared. Burn the jungle if you must. The aliens set fire to the trees. Great walls of smoke rose into the darkening sky. They thought fire would drive the human out. But Reed was ready. He had already moved. Deep into a river covered in mud, he watched them destroy their own path. They were blind now, cutting themselves off from safety, exactly as he wanted. That night, more aliens vanished. One by one, patrols sent into the burning jungle never returned. The survivors talked about seeing shadows moving between the flames. They whispered about the ghost, a human who could not die. At midnight, an explosion rocked the camp. The aliens ran to the edge of their base, their supply depot. Food, ammo, medical kits, was gone. Only a smoking crater remained. Carved into the ground, in big burned letters, were 3 words. Still not dead. Commander Vrall clenched his fists. This human is no soldier, he said. He is a demon. But deep inside, even Vrall was beginning to wonder. Had they made a mistake? Meanwhile, Reed crouched inside a ruined tree trunk, wrapping his wounds with stolen medical tape. His hands were dirty, shaking from pain and exhaustion. But his spirit was strong. He thought of Earth. He thought of the people who trusted him to carry their flag into the stars. He would not fail them. He would show these aliens what it meant to fight a human, even one standing alone. At dawn, the aliens tried something new. They sent their best hunters, silent killers trained to move without sound. They were fast, smart, and deadly. They thought Reed would not hear them coming. But humans had better ears, better instincts. Reed heard the faint snap of a branch, the quiet shift of a footstep. He set his final trap. A wire stretched across the path, hidden by leaves. When the lead hunter stepped on it, a heavy log, sharpened into a spear, swung down from the trees. The alien didn't even have time to scream. The others scattered into the jungle, shouting in fear. Reed smiled grimly. His work was not done yet. Commander Vrall gathered his remaining forces. We end this now, he said. No more playing. Find the human. Kill him. The aliens moved like a small army through the trees, weapons ready, faces grim. But the jungle was against them now. The vines, the trees, the shadows, everything hid Reed's traps. As they marched, Reed watched from above, waiting for the perfect moment. Then he threw the stolen grenade. The explosion threw aliens in all directions. The battle began. Reed fought like a ghost, striking from the dark, then vanishing. He stole weapons from fallen aliens. He used smoke grenades to blind them. He lured them into dead zones where they could not fight back. The aliens were better armed, stronger, more advanced. But Reed had something they didn't: the will to survive. By the end of the day, the jungle was quiet again. Smoke rose in thin lines above broken trees and burned grass. Alien bodies lay scattered across the ground. Commander Vrall stood alone, blood dripping from a wound on his side. In the distance, hidden by the mist, Reed watched. He didn't attack. Not yet. He wanted Vrall to live. He wanted the aliens to understand one thing. You can kill a human's body, but you can never kill his spirit. The morning was cold and wet. Smoke floated above the broken jungle. Burned trees stood like skeletons. Broken alien machines lay in pieces across the ground. Captain Reed stood at the edge of the destroyed camp. His body ached. His wounds were deep, but his eyes were hard and full of fire. He looked at the alien weapons lying everywhere: rifles, grenades, armor pieces. A small, grim smile crossed his face. If they brought the weapons, he would use them. Carefully, Reed picked up a fallen alien rifle. It was heavy and strange, nothing like Earth's weapons. He studied it. His fingers worked fast. In just minutes, he figured out how to fire it. The aliens made powerful machines, but not hard to understand. Reed collected everything he could carry: explosives, power cells, shield belts, even broken drones. If the aliens wanted a real fight, he would give them one, using their own power against them. The ghosts of his fallen crew were watching. He would not fail them. Meanwhile, far away in orbit, the alien flagship received a message. Commander Vrall's voice was broken and full of fear. "We need reinforcements," he said. "The human is not dead. He is destroying us one by one." The alien high command laughed. "One human," they said. "You shame yourself." But when Vrall sent the footage, videos of burning camps, missing patrols, strange messages carved into trees, the laughter stopped. This was not normal. This was not war. This was something they did not understand. Still, they sent reinforcements. Dozens of new soldiers, heavier weapons, battle walkers. They were sure this would crush the human. They were wrong. 2 days later, the new army landed. Armored vehicles rolled across the jungle floor. Giant metal walkers stomped through the trees. Hundreds of alien soldiers spread out, scanning the ground for any sign of Reed. Commander Vrall, still alive but full of shame, led them. "This ends today," he growled. But as they moved forward, strange things began to happen. Explosions tore through the lines. Walker legs snapped from hidden charges. Supply trucks burst into flames without warning. The jungle itself seemed cursed. And always, somewhere just out of sight, Reed was moving. He had placed traps everywhere. Stronger now, using alien explosives. He hacked the fallen drones to fly like angry birds, diving into enemy camps and exploding. He used stolen alien cloaking fields to vanish among the trees. The aliens tried to track him, but their machines failed again and again. Their greatest technology was now being used against them. At sunset, the first walker fell. It was a giant metal monster, 20 feet tall, covered in armor. Reed had waited for it to cross a certain hill, a spot where he had buried 3 stolen power cores. When the walker stepped forward, Reed pressed a single button. The earth exploded. The walker flew into the air, torn apart by its own weight. The aliens stared in shock. How could one human do this? How could one broken man turn their strongest machines into burning wrecks? Commander Vrall felt the cold grip of fear again. That night, Reed attacked the main supply depot. He wore a stolen alien shield belt, protecting him from the first few shots. He moved like a ghost between the crates and tanks, planting bombs and stealing what he needed. The guards barely saw him. When the depot exploded behind him, Reed didn't even look back. He had more important things to do. Across the battlefield, alien morale collapsed. Soldiers whispered about the human who could not die. They called him the Ghost of Fire. Some refused to leave their camps at night. Some fired at shadows. Some simply ran into the jungle and never returned. Commander Vrall knew he had to stop this madness. He set a trap, a fake message sent out over the comms, pretending to be a wounded alien begging for help. He hoped Reed would come. He hoped to catch him finally. But it was Reed who was already watching. He jammed the comms. He rerouted the signals. He used the fake message to draw the aliens into his trap instead. When they reached the fake location, they found nothing but bombs, ready to explode. The jungle lit up with fire once more. By dawn, the alien army was shattered again. The flagship in orbit received a final message from Vrall. Request evacuation. Human resistance unstoppable. There was silence on the other end. Even the leaders who once laughed were now silent. They had made a terrible mistake. They thought technology would make them gods. They thought humans were weak. They forgot one thing. A human with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous enemy in the universe. And Captain Reed was just getting started. The sky was burning. Captain Reed held the ship's controls tightly as alarms screamed around him. Red lights flashed. The ground was coming closer, too fast. He gritted his teeth and pulled hard. But it was useless. The engines were dead. The Starfire, Earth's fastest scout ship, was falling from the sky like a stone. Behind him, the crew was already gone. Killed when the alien ships attacked. Reed was the only one left. He slammed a fist against the console, cursing the aliens. They had ambushed them without warning. No chance to fight back. The jungle world below rushed up to meet him. With a loud crash, the ship smashed into the ground. Metal screamed and twisted. Reed's body slammed against his seat. Everything went black. When Reed woke up, smoke filled the air. His helmet was cracked. His arm hurt badly. He looked around. The ship was destroyed. Fires burned everywhere. Pieces of metal lay like broken bones across the forest floor. Slowly, painfully, he pulled himself out of the wreckage. Above him, hidden in the trees, they were watching. The aliens, The ones who shot him down. They stood tall, covered in dark armor. Their skin shimmered like oil. Their leader, Commander Vral, stared at Reed with cold, golden eyes. "He is finished," Vral said to his soldiers. "A broken human in a broken ship. He will not survive the night." The aliens laughed. Some wanted to move in and kill him quickly. But Vral shook his head. "Let him run," he said. "It will be more fun to watch him die slowly." Reed didn't know he was being watched, but he could feel it. A cold touch on the back of his neck. His instincts screamed at him, "Run, now." He staggered into the jungle, disappearing into the thick green shadows. Hours passed. Night fell. The jungle was alive with strange sounds. Creatures calling, trees groaning in the wind. But among the normal noises, there was something else. Something wrong. Alien patrols moved through the trees, hunting the human. They laughed and joked. To them, it was a game. But then, one of them vanished. No scream, no struggle. One moment he was there, the next, gone. The others laughed nervously. "Probably just lost in the dark," one said. But then a second soldier vanished. And then a third. The laughter stopped. Panic started to grow. They searched everywhere, shining blue lights into the trees. They found nothing. Only the feeling that something was watching them now. Commander Vral stood at the edge of the crash site, angry. "This is impossible," he growled. "One wounded human cannot do this." One of his soldiers ran up, shaking with fear. In his hands was a piece of metal, part of the human ship. Scratched into it, with something sharp, were 4 words. "I am not dead." Vral crushed the metal in his strong hands. "Bring him to me," he ordered. "Now." But deep inside the jungle, Captain Reed was already preparing. He tore pieces from the wrecked ship. Wires, metal, broken weapons. He set traps among the trees. He used mud to cover his scent. He remembered everything Earth had taught him about survival. Pain burned in his body. His broken arm throbbed. But his mind was sharp. His heart was full of fire. They thought he was dead. They thought wrong. The next morning, the aliens found another body. This time, it was left hanging from a tree, tied up with vines. A message was carved into the tree bark above it. "You started this." Commander Vral's anger turned into fear. For the first time in years, the alien soldiers, trained killers from 100 worlds, felt the icy hand of fear close around their hearts. This was no longer a hunt. This was survival. And somewhere, hidden among the trees, the last human was waiting. Bleeding, broken, but not beaten.